Time to rejoin the conversation. All right, we are back, and okay, here we go. Party politics. So let's take a look at the policies that the Obama administration introduced and the Trump administration has been dismantling. And the reason that I wanted to bring this one up is I'm going to admit something that I have not, it just happened, but I hadn't talked about it at all. And I got caught in a scam. So, scam was, if you're trying to, pay back student loans, and, there was a thing going around that you could either possibly get your loans forgiven or partially forgiven or something like that. So, contacted people, actually had me fill out all this very official paperwork and all of that. And they told me that there was like an administration fee to get it all done. Once the administration fee was paid, then the payments for the student loan would start coming out. And so the administration fee stuff had come out, and then it had been about a week or so past the point that I thought that the student loan payments should start coming out. And so I started getting a little nervous, and my intuition was like, call these people and see, because maybe something got messed up, or maybe I did something wrong, or maybe I was supposed to pay it versus them auto withdrawing from my account. So when I called the number, there was a recording basically saying that the Federal Trade Commission had clamped down on these people. They had several different names that they were going under, and you need to immediately try to call and see what's going on with your loans.
That's an all shit moment.
It was an all shit moment, and I spent 3 good hours on Friday on and off the phone with every agency that I could think of to try to figure out what was going on, who had my loans, the whole thing. It was crazy. I had to wind up getting a new debit card at my bank, and so they couldn't keep withdrawing just in case, and all of that. But one of the people, when I finally figured out who had my loans, because my original lender didn't have them anymore.
Yeah, they sell.
Yeah, so
They sell.
And luckily they sold them to another legitimate loan administrator. But all of the things that they promised that they were going to do, of course, they hadn't done. But one of the guys on the phone was saying that this is directly due to the Trump administration loosened a regulation about selling your information, and so that got me to thinking about what else had changed that could be affecting people that people don't even know is going on, and thus today's topic.
Did you ever find out that was real or not?
The
change in policy to be able to sell your information easier?
Yes.
Because you still have to acknowledge that they have the permission to do it, don't you?
Yeah, but like I say, I had talked to them back and forth, email with them back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and they seemed very legitimate. Cause like I say, I talked to them 2 or 3 different times. I emailed back and forth with them, filling out all those forms, mm-hmm. and yeah, they just were basically setting me up to take the administration fee, which, by the way, out there in podcast land, if you have signed up for anything like that, please check into your loans, because the bank seems to feel like they can get my money back, but that was and brace yourself, sit down. That was $600 they got me for.
Well, here's another thing to watch for in that respect. If you have medical debt, there are companies out there that call you and say that, okay, you have medical debt, we've settled your debt for X amount of dollars. Give us your information, you pay us, and it's settled.
Right.
So my hair on my back, my neck went up, and I said, okay, tell me who I owe medical debt to.
Right. Well, and the crazy thing was
They couldn't tell me who they owe medical debt to.
That's good.
Yeah, well, the crazy thing was that's why it seemed so legitimate, because it wasn't like I had to provide them all of the information about who owns what debt or whatever. Like, they were able to, the way a legitimate agency would, they were able to look that right up, find out, okay, we see that you owe to this, and I was like, oh, okay. And like I say, I was upset was a mild understatement. More like homicidally livid was.
Were they right on the people who said own the loans?
What's that?
Were they right on the people they said own the loans, or did they just say names?
No, they were correct on who had my loans. They were and they had amounts. They had they
had hacked in.
Did they go through Fannie and Freddie?
I don't know
who's the one who does the student loan ones?
Well, you got Sally Mae. That's about 4 or 5 different large people who deal with your student loans. And
I don't know. You can't, for example, a lot of private ones won't let you consolidate, but there was a time when you could consolidate government ones.
Right.
I wonder if they have access to those.
Yeah.
Not having access to private ones.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I had already consolidated with one agency, and so basically they were able to take everything from the one agency, and all they really did was just move it to another agency. And like I said, so when I called, I got that recording, and then I freaked and I called who was supposed to have my loans, and they were like, no, your loans are paid off, you're clear. And I was like, wait, what? And so they were like, I can give you this number. And so they gave me a number, and I called those people, and they weren't the agency that knew directly about loans. So finally I had to get with the Department of Education and find out, okay, who actually has my loans. And then I contacted the new loan provider, and they were like, we just have the loans. There's no special payments, there's no income base, there's no, I currently work for a nonprofit, so the reason I was started all this was because, there is a real program out there. If you work for a nonprofit for 10 years or more, you can get a large portion of your loans forgiven, but they never put that paperwork through. Even though I did fill it out, and my job had to fill out part of it, it was a mess.
Sorry. Yeah.
So either way it goes, like I said, that was kind of my impetus for even bringing this topic up. Yeah.
The one thing I did is I asked them to send me a certified letter, and they never sent me a certified letter. So it's a little different situation than you.
Yeah, but yeah, no.
But turn around and make them send you a certified letter.
No, that's good. That's actually a good precaution out there for anybody out there in podcast land who's listening, to protect yourself, in these situations, because of course these agencies seem legit, sound legit, have, legitimate looking, emails and websites and everything else, but obviously not legit. And so,
Yeah, I actually think this would be a good time for like basically a PSA is that, make sure if you get emails of any sort, like from your bank or anyone that you use, instead of clicking on the link to log in, if it tells you to log in, go to your bookmarks and use the link that you're used to using. Because I've actually been looking a lot into like how these types of things happen, and
phishing.
Yeah, so it's phishing, and just a very quick explanation on some of the things they do. Even if you have like Google 2 authentication, so say you have it set up to log in, and they send you a text message with the code. You type in the code, right? It all seems very legit. So what someone can do is actually build a website that looks identical to a Google login thing, and if they can catch your phone number, which they can look it up a million different ways. It's easy to find someone's cell phone number now that everyone has cell phones. They can actually be a man in the middle in that sense. Send you an email with an account that looks kind of like a Google account and say, hey, you need to sign in because you have a report that's up. Google sends out all these reports of where you traveled last month, things like that. They send you an email, they say log in, you click the link and it says, hey, you should log in. You're like, all right, so you click the button and then it says, we're gonna send you a text message, right? It's the normal thing. So they actually send that message to log into Google to send that text message. So Google's actually sending you the text message. So then you receive it, and when you type it into their website, they log in as you, and then they also log in for you. So now you've logged into an actual Google website and you have no idea that someone else caught all that information between, and they are also logged in as you on their machine.
I got something today. Area code I didn't even know. Hey, we're having a Christmas party. I just need an RSVP on how many people are coming. I don't know who the hell this is. Last time we do is RSVP because there's a link to RSVP to. Boom, they got you. If you don't know who the hell they are, delete it. They'll get a hold of you if they know you.
yeah, exactly. And this is exactly what I mean about, sometimes there's, regulation that seems redundant, or it seems overreaching, or it seems whatever, but, when that regulation is gone, then you realize, oh, this is what they were protecting from, and if you notice, like I had to really think back, all of this stuff, I started seeing all of these types of things, in the past 5 to 6 months. And because one of the first things that he rolled back was this, selling your information regulation. And I won't get into every single unless there's some particular ones that people want to talk about. But
let me give you one today.
Yeah.
I talked to my insurance provider for a good half hour today, and one of the things that Trump has done is tried to make it so with the health insurance policy that we can turn around and form groups.
Right.
Sound like a good idea to me.
Right.
I don't know if this is necessarily a regulation, but he's saying, what he's trying to tell me, it doesn't matter if you're a small company in a group of your small company, or if I join National Federal Independent Businessmen, or the National Apartment Association, or the Kansas City Home Builders Association, or anything like that. He said, once you get in there, everybody's going to throw claims on it. And it's not going to cost you a whole lot less. But he also pointed out, he said Medicare for All, which is Sanders' plan,
Right.
isn't a whole lot different, because then everybody's going to have a claim. It's still going to cost you a pretty penny. There's nothing to get away around it. His interesting comment was this. In this case, he says, the best way to drive down healthcare costs, and Gary's 68 years old. He's been doing this all of his life. Is that we actually need get out of our way. Government being in our way is driving up the healthcare cost with all the regulations in this particular case. I don't think it's that way in every case with regulation. I think some regulations are good regulations, so don't misunderstand me here. But he said you open up to the free market and you establish competition, you'll see prices come down. I don't have enough knowledge. I mean, when he talks to me after a half-hour conversation, my head hurts. Because, you know, they're dealing with so many factors coming at them nowadays. With everything coming at them and what they're trying to do to provide health care insurance for ourselves and for our employees and if you're an individual, he was talking about Wyandotte County and Johnson County, and to provide individual health care for them is just a phenomenal outtake. They gotta be able to do these things, and it is a very confusing, very difficult subject to try to work through. And in some ways, I think sometimes government gets in the way of things, and sometimes government does very good with some of their regulations. So I think it's kind of a 50-50 deal. Some things are good and some things are bad.
True enough. So, like I said, I didn't want to get into every single thing, but I want to throw some numbers out there and get some feedback from the panel. So there's already been 16 executive actions issued by the Trump administration that have tried to or have rolled back some policy under the Obama administration. There's 74 things that are kind of cabinet level that they've been proposing that would roll back some form of a regulation. There's about 27 of those 74 that are actually in the works. You've got 14 congressional review level things that have been trying to target specific regulations. You've got 20, but there's been at least 20 that have tried and failed. And then you've got only one actual piece of new legislation that has been attempted. And so it got me to thinking about, just kind of the power of the pen, because a lot of what's seeming to happen isn't true law changing. A lot of it is, an executive order repealed an old executive order, and
the problem is the next president can roll them right back the other way.
Yeah,
they need to be done legislatively.
Just gotta keep this ride going.
It's just a vicious circle, and because our Congress on both parties won't act on things that they need to be acting on.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's the bottom line of it. Like DACA.
yeah.
We all know we need some type of immigration reform. But DACA needs to be a legislative immigration reform. This is a major thing. It needs to be legislated. And they need to get off their butt and do something that is common sense, that protects the people that need to be protected, that is good for our American society, not necessarily good for what they think of. I mean, we think of these legislatures in their 30 years, how many millions of dollars they get from the lobbyist. we got a broken political system in that way, very broken. And a lot of us, this is where our disgust is that we're dealing with these career politicians that are on the take and they're making money, hand over fist, and that you can't tell me they're not, but they are. But they've set up the laws in the political system so that it works this way for them. And they no longer have our interest in mind, they have their own interest in mind and their special interest in mind. And that's the problem with regulations. A lot of times regulations are set up to handle the special interests that are there and not the people.
I see you doing the Googles over there, Chris. What are you looking up?
Just curious as to the number that each president has ordered, just to see, because I was curious where Obama came in on the list.
Right.
Because it's all, it's always
they
a
did
fascinating
that.
point.
He was like in the last, like I want to say from Reagan to current, he was like
He's second.
right in the middle or
He's
something.
he's second lowest.
Yeah.
So if you
number
go-
of executive orders.
Yeah, if you go back, and this is a quick list.
He tried really
It
hard
starts
not
with
to do
Theodore
that.
Roosevelt. He was apparently the first one to do it. And so what's funny is they have the number that people claim that they issued versus the actual number that were issued as defined by the American Presidency Project, which tracks all those. Me too.
That's awesome.
So
Good
as
for
data
whoever
nerds,
put
so
that
we both
together.
love this
Yeah,
stuff.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I love this. So Theodore Roosevelt claimed to have done 3, but he actually did 1,081. FDR claimed to have done 11 when he did 3,522.
Wow.
Truman claimed to have done 5, did 907. Ike claimed to have done 2 when he did 484. This is just their first terms, too. That's all it's
How many a day would that be?
Yeah, I know.
Like some of those.
Think about the
thousands.
New Deal. He was just writing orders right and left.
Oh, I know it's not a. I know it's not a. Are you done with the list of topics?
Yeah, we're just
So I'll get to the modern ones
discussing
just real
now.
quick. So Reagan said he did 5, he did 381. H.W. Bush claimed to have done 3 when he did 166. Clinton claimed to have done 15, he did 364. George W. Bush claimed to have done 62, he did 291, and Obama claimed to do 923. People say he did 923.
Right.
He actually only did 275.
He's
So
the only
my-
one that's on the
That
other
went
side.
to
So
their-
my curiosity is, what were those executive orders though? Was it
It's a huge list.
huge things, or was it like little things that are typical, like we're changing the China pattern? Like,
So, like, basically-
like is that an executive order, or like
Basically,
little,
an impactful.
yeah?
index.
How many of
Sure.
those were impactful that actually affected things outside of the
the
White
White
House?
House.
Yeah, and you do wonder. I
Yeah,
don't know. it
compared
doesn't-
to
How many did Obama have?
Doesn't break him down. So people want to say that he did 923, which is, I guess, kind of a popular number that conservatives were throwing around, when he only did 275.
he's the lowest.
Yeah, right.
in-
He's like the
Who's
only
who's
one that
under
the
him?
numbers
H.W. Bush was
were
the
in
lowest
reverse.
in the modern era with 166.
Wow.
But it's interesting, yeah, and it doesn't go. I'm sure if we dug deeper, we could
And
get
Trump
the
has
substance of
already
them.
done how many in his first
I don't know, you
year?
had the list. How many? You had?
Well,
Executive action.
Yeah,
These are actual
what-
executive orders.
yeah, this is just talking about 16 of his executive orders, and then they were lumping in things that the cabinet.
Those would just be policies.
I
yeah,
feel like-
official
cabinet
executive
I
policies.
feel like Trump will probably be similar to Obama in the sense that I bet a lot of people think he's done more than he has.
Yeah, when it's all said
Well,
and
the
done.
thing is,
because it
though,
comes
we
down
know
to-
when he does it because he tweets about it. I
because
mean,
I
there's no lying,
Because I
like.
think that's
Well, he's
that,
an
that,
open book.
that difference
Yeah.
is probably an indicator of like controversy.
But they
right?
are.
Like,
They've
that's-
already said
yeah.
that he's had more in his first 6 months than any other president. He's done more because that's the only way he's been able to change.
Yeah.
To
The
get
Congress
his
has done nothing because
Yeah.
they are against him. Yes, they are.
No, I don't think that was the case. He put in an executive order for the travel ban before they even talked about it in Congress. He just did it. And then it went to court.
To be
So,
fair,
I mean, some things I think he hasn't tried to go to Congress on, and other things he's tired of waiting for them. So, I mean, to me, it's not all Congress and it's not all him. They're really...
So
It's
CNN
hard to work with somebody that treats you like shit. I mean, it just, and vice versa.
So CNN, as of last Friday, has Trump issuing his 49th executive order, the most of anybody in the last 50 years.
And in the same period of time.
Yeah.
That's because he thought it was a book signing.
Yeah, if you took just the
He's
exact
shaking.
period of time.
It was the Googles.
Well, this isn't zooming in. My eyes are bad. But it's Trump, then Obama, then W. Bush, then Clinton, then H.W. Bush, and then Reagan.
Okay. All right.
Interesting.
In the same period of time.
In the same period of time. It's interesting.
So, I get, like I say, without delving into super specific orders, because there's so many to go through. I mean, like Chris just said, if there's already been 49, we definitely don't want to try to go down the list of all 49. But I guess what I do want to do,
We'll lose all of our listeners.
exactly. What I do want to do is tell everybody out there in podcast land to, I know that our political climate currently is contentious, to say the least. But I guess what I do want to say to everybody out there in podcast land is, stay
Informed.
engaged, stay
Diligent.
informed, stay diligent, because
and
yeah.
look at different-
all Americans should stay
Yeah,
diligent.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's
And-
That's our job
look
as
at-
voting citizens.
exactly.
Well,
I mean, that is the only job of the citizenry, is to stay informed and engaged. So do your job out there in podcast land. Just stay informed.
But it shouldn't just be what you want to hear. Like, you need,
No, you need to stay truly informed.
Yeah,
because
if this is what you believe, look for somebody that believes the opposite, or
Don't be afraid to be a scientist.
Yeah.
no,
Because
yeah.
a scientist is supposed to have a theory and then try to displace
Yeah, right.
it.
Try to disprove it. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So, be a scientist and be a political scientist.
Well, this is
Look at all sides and form your own opinion.
this is
That's the
other-
most important thing we do. If you take for rote everything is so, you'll just become what they call the sheeple. Don't be a sheeple. Be an intelligent voter.
It's
Then
in
vote
danger
your
of just
conscience.
throwing out a number.
Yeah.
Because to Brian's point, we don't know. And we're not sitting here going through a list of who did what meaningful executive orders in the same amount of time.
Right.
I don't know how many of these 49 were worth a piece of
Yeah,
grass.
yeah.
I have no
I mean,
idea.
and like I
don't
said,
know
I
what
just,
ones.
Some
I,
of them
I just,
may be
ha-
good.
I just
I'm
happened to
surprised
realize
at the
that
49.
one of them
Yeah.
actually affected me, and
Well, and I think we knew when they were talking. You kind of know, that's not gonna be good, but you don't really know until it truly does affect you.
But the other interesting part, and I mean, it's a shitty story, so don't get me wrong, and there's
Yeah.
probably a lot of cases like this. These people already broke the law. I mean, clearly, by virtue of the fact that you called their number back and a law was broken,
yeah,
it's hard to go, okay, Trump's regulation is entirely responsible necessarily when in fact these people are already cheating what was an existing law.
Yeah.
It's it's when crazy people go shoot somebody. Typically they're in violation of 30 gun laws already. And it's like, what are we gonna do? Add on another one? I don't know what would have been
yeah. I mean,
around the
That could happen to
situation.
Obama or Bush or
yeah,
anybody.
well, exactly. I mean, which is like really the reason that I wanted to bring it up in the first place. It really wasn't an indictment on the Trump administration. It's really more like, okay, we have to be engaged and really engaged. A lot of people, I think they're engaged because they have harsh words to say on Facebook. But do you actually know what the laws are? Even in your town. Versus some of these larger federal statutes and things like that. I think a lot of times people don't even realize. I remember one time I was looking and I saw I saw a thing about laws that are still on the books, and they've been on the books forever. And
ridiculous.
Yeah, just ridiculous laws, but they're still on the books. Like I remember one of them was
no selling alcohol on Sunday.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. But there was but I do remember there was a vagrancy law that basically said that if you were if you were stopped by an officer and you didn't have at least $1 in your pocket, they could arrest you as a vagrant. Yeah, like that. Yeah, like
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous law that maybe at some point made sense, but it does not make any sense at all anymore. Most people don't carry cash. Why is this thing still on the books? So, really, yes, the question is framed about the the laws and orders that have been rolled back under the Trump administration, but really it's really about knowing what your rights even are.
So I want to come back to the point you made where you said, if these guys are doing this, they already broke a ton of laws, right? And like the same goes with like you mentioned like shootings or things like that. I think. Right. And I don't want to get into a gun debate. That is not my point here. But has anyone seen Bowling for Columbine?
Yeah.
So I watched like the first 30, 40 minutes of it last night. I fell asleep. So I only got to see a portion of it. But one of the points that they make for probably a 4-minute montage in there is the problem is everybody owns guns, and now there's laws and everything. But at some point, the law made it. The process early made it easier to break the law later. And
right.
So I thought it just made me think of that, where it's like, yes, they broke a bunch of laws, but maybe this reform made it easier to break those laws.
It's so fine, but then people just propose more easy laws to break.
Yeah,
at that point,
they put law on top of law.
They'll put some dumb girl's
fixing
name
it.
on it, like they always do. Go, it's Ginny's law.
Some dumb girl?
It's not dumb, and what I mean is it's a stupid name of a bill.
Yeah.
They think just by putting the name of the person who got shot, generally some pretty white girl in the middle of nowhere, and they're like, poor little blonde thing, that's sad,
No,
we can't believe it.
I totally agree.
No offense to the Megan girl, but Megan's law gets broken all the time. But it's a law just because they put a cute little girl's name on it, and nobody wants to vote against that.
Okay, but back up. The
It's the most
actual
common
law,
thing in the
but the
world.
actual law isn't Megan's law. That's the common
What they
name
call
for
it.
it.
I get that
Yeah.
in the annals of American history, it's not called Megan's Law. It's not called Obamacare either.
Right,
But we
right.
all sit here and call it.
Yeah.
I don't call it Obamacare.
I totally
I'm sure
agree.
everybody does.
But doesn't that emphasize the fact that when you make these decisions first, like when you start pulling back, the moment you do that, from then on, regardless if you come back, you start putting more laws on top of it later, you've already kind of peeled back, and there's no way, at that point on, you've made it easier to break the law. You made it easier for people to get that. They now have Mario's information.
Sure.
No matter what law they put back in place now, they have it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But you're right.
I don't know how they acquired it in the first place. Would be my point. I don't know that it's due to the regulation.
That's true.
It's a cause and effect thing. So that's all I'm saying. Is I have no idea, but it is weird to me that generally most times when there's crimes committed, they're already breaking other laws.
That's true. There's nothing to say that that's
laws generally are not the answer.
That was a consequence of that. But in some cases, at least a portion of the cases, it had to have happened because of
And
that.
I'm great with making them harder.
And then there's right? But then so it always makes that first decision. You never know when it's the first decision. That's also hard about it, right?
One hard part for me, though, is we generally make laws, and this is what sucks, is it's no different than being in school. Think of all the rules that you had in school and stuff. even in work. 99% of them are all based around the 1% least common denominator. You know, so because some moron does something stupid that we then now have to make a rule about it or
Well,
pass
that's
a law
why
or
they have
something
safety
else.
warnings on almost everything. Think about
I would
who
agree.
did it
That's
that
good.
you had to
I
have a
would
safety
agree.
warning.
That's the true point right there. It's because some moron did something stupid, so Congress is gonna run and make a law about it.
Or your school is, or your workplace is,
Or your
or
school,
everybody
or your
else is.
business, or anything else.
Yeah.
I work from home.
And you're a business owner, I'm a business
But you
owner,
still
we
have
know
law,
that we have
I
a
mean,
certain
rules.
amount of regulations that we are governed by on how we're supposed to handle our employees, how we're supposed to deal with certain situations.
Yeah.
But
I work from
okay.
home and I have to go through the sexual harassment thing. Now I have made, like, that in itself was
Okay,
worth
but
it because of
you
how many
can't-
jokes I got to bring out with that. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm taking a sexual harassment thing right now. Like,
But you
That is
work
hilarious.
from
That's the
home,
benefit
but
of
that's
having
not to
mostly
say
male
that you're not on
voice.
conference
Yeah.
calls or
I
you
have
don't
one
go to
female.
conferences or you aren't ever in an office setting.
Listen,
You
I mean,
know?
as we're finding out now, sexual harassment is a fairly common thing in the workplace, always has been. I wonder how common it is necessarily, but I don't know, just because you have a couple of assholes who show up and have a million stories about them. But it gets to the point of just stupidity at some point. I mean, it really does. You know, I mean, I remember trying to fire people and like, no, you need to have 3 other people in the room to make sure
Right.
everybody gets it legally. Da da da. I'm like, oh my god, like,
Yeah,
this is,
I mean,
now
well,
it's just
even
annoying.
yeah, even in our job, it's like that. You know, you it's never one person letting somebody go, even whether it's a layoff or you're firing.
Yeah, and it's just a massive waste of everybody's time at that point. Sometimes people should just be fired, like, on the spot.
They should, but there's always those people that
The least common
say
denominator.
yes. But
Yeah.
but that's what happens. You have. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it is why.
I wish we would crack
you know?
down on the least common denominators first, and then worry about everybody else second, and we don't.
But you don't always know that until it happens. Then it becomes the least common denominator.
It would be awesome if we had a judicial system that just threw it out and said, you're an idiot. You had it coming, you're stupid.
You are an idiot.
We're a very litigious society, which I think is the basis of a lot of this.
and overly complex, right? Because the moment something like that happens, insurance companies get involved.
Oh,
and they're like, oh, well, we're only gonna, you can get a discount if you put everyone through this thing because that
Sure.
covers our stuff. And like, what business owner's not gonna say, yeah, do I want a free discount? Just make all my people take this? Sure. You know, like that makes sense.
I mean, think how easy
I
it would be to
wonder if
make
we
the
go
tax
through
code
a
simple.
sexual harassment training. I don't think we do.
I made me when
Many
it was
large
there.
companies that do.
I don't.
And
Well,
And
maybe,
but for the record,
maybe
I am not the common denominator here.
Maybe
so.
maybe that happened so long ago I don't remember it.
I mean, we had a sprint
new
in that
associate
DRT,
orientation.
had to do it. And in fact, even in our Liquid 9 manual that we got from our lawyer, we had to cover off on it. They had to sign
Well,
something
now I'm
relevant.
sure it's probably in our policies and procedures that we have to sign off on every year, but I don't remember.
And speaking of
Having
now
gone
that
through
someone went out and had an extra drink at a happy hour or whatever that that was linked to work, now everyone in the company and all of our related companies have to go through a whole driving thing on top of it.
Oh, really?
So,
Oh, wow.
All what companies?
related companies and
Oh.
our sister companies. And
Wow.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that one person,
It's just punish the one person.
Wish.
I'm for
That
that.
weren't going.
All right.
Well,
Sorry, Mario.
And then tell everyone, so let that be the lesson.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
Exactly.
I mean, isn't
What
that how
I'm
that should
talking
work?
about.
All right, so I think we have one out there in podcast land learned be aware of what legally is going on around you. 2, don't be an idiot, and 3, please take your sexual harassment courses so that you don't wind up getting fired or reprimanded for saying, "Hey, yeah, your haircut is purity today," and
the least common denominator.
yeah, and right, and then you become the least common denominator. But with that, we'll be right
Isn't
back.
it funny?
Hey, you having a good time? Let me introduce you to a couple of my media brothers. First, www.americathemixtape.com. a cipher on American politics, society, and culture. And where'd I get that mixtape? Of course, www.cornerbodega.us, purveyors of urban culture. Come on, let's get back to the party. And we are back. And before we get out of here, let's talk about today's sugar, honey, iced tea. And for those that don't know, these are things that I, or a member of the group, have found that are really cool, aka the shit. And today's sugar, honey, iced tea is intuition. And the reason that that is today's sugar, honey, iced tea is because my intuition told me I need to call and see what's going on. And of course, that led me to know that I had gotten caught in a potentially very bad situation. And but because I listened to my intuition and I made those calls early, you know, I have at least staved off, you know, this round of financial issues. And of course, you know, I will have to be very diligent with, you know, with my information and you know, and everything from, you know, this day forward, making sure what's going on out there. But if, you know, if you got a little voice saying, you know, hey, you know, you should probably listen, because your intuition generally doesn't lie to you.
And that little thing's got that hammer and it's banging in the back of your head. Don't ignore it.
Do not
investigate it.
Exactly.
I do that in business. That's something that gets me all the time. If I ignore the little hammer sometimes, it usually comes and bites me. Something's telling me something ain't right here.
Something ain't right.
Are
But
you shivering?
with that, I am going to end this podcast in the way I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it all for me, and that is to good times with good people.